Being able to build a simple yet great looking landing page with responsiveness features and some functionality, and also deploying it to a hosting platform is a must-know skill for each and every developer. And it's easier than you would imagine. Hey, how's it going everyone? As always, I'm your host Norbert PM, and in this tutorial we're going to learn how to create this landing page and also deploy it to GitHub pages. And we will make it live and accessible to the public by using GitHub static site hosting. Now also, this is a completely responsive landing page. Basically, if we shrink down to a smaller format, you'll see the navigation disappear and also a bit of changes to the hero section right here. Also, we will have a completely functional hamburger menu, which we click will transform it into a small X, and then the menu will drop down. So this is going to be a pretty simple yet fun project. We'll use a bit of JavaScript, we will use CSS variables, we'll use media queries, we will have a lot of fun, and at the end we're also going to deploy it to GitHub. So let's get started with this tutorial. Okay, so let's drag this to the side here. You know what, I'm actually going to make, let's just leave it here until we start styling it. So I just created an empty folder. I'm going to start it with an index.html. index.html file, and let's start with the boilerplate. Now I also am going to use font awesome here, so we're going to need the font awesome CDN. Now I suggest that you use the CDN provided down in the description below. As always, the complete code is down in the description below, so if you mess something up, then you can just compare them, or if you just wish to follow along and not code along, then you can just download the code. It's free to be downloaded. But I would strongly suggest to code along, especially if you're a beginner, then just to get used with moving from CSS to HTML and a bit of JavaScript. Okay, so let's go to, we need font awesome, and we need the CDN. So we're going to go to cdnjs.com, and from there we're going to take from Cloudflare the link, copy the link, pasted it in above our title. Let's change the title, let's name this my landing page. Okay, let's scroll down a bit, go into the body. Also, if I'm up here, I'm going to link up our yet not created style.css, and let's also create our style.css. Style.css. Okay, so we're going to just do here a bit of a basic setup, and this means we hooked up our font awesome CDN. We can close this up. Actually, let's also go to font awesome. Let's have this open. And we're going to have, well, just two icons. We're going to have that hamburger icon and the multiply icon from Font Awesome. So you can see these two. Okay, I'm going to do a basic setup, a basic CSS setup, which will just reset everything. So you're going to target the star selector, which is going to select everything. And I'm going to reset margins to 0, padding to 0, and I'm going to set the box sizing to border box. Okay, for the font, so for the font of this page, I used Poppins from Google Fonts. So let's go to Google Fonts and let's search for Poppins. Poppins. Now by having this selected, let me just see, I hope I don't have anything else selected. Regular, bold, go away. I'm going to have the 400 font weight, so the regular 400. Let me just make this a bit larger. So the regular 400 font, the 500 font, and the 700 font, and also the 900 font for bold, for completely bold. So, well, I didn't need that. I need you. Actually remove this, and the 900 one. So not italic, but blank 900. Okay, so we got all of this. Now I'm not going to link it up. I'm going to import it. So click on import and select everything that is between the style tags. Now let's go back to our CSS and just paste it in. Also for the font family, I'm going to select now this and select the body. I'm going to target the body element and paste this in here. So basically the body now has the font family of Poppins and sans serif. Okay, and as I said, I'm going to use a couple of variables, CSS variables. So we're going to target the root. This is the root selector, hyphen and root. I'm going to type in here 3 variables. Now the way you define variables, if you never use CSS variables, is hyphen hyphen and then the variable name. This one is going to be blue. Then it needs also the value of that variable, and basically here I'm just going to paste in a color, a hexadecimal color. This is going to be a blue color, so 1C19 and E. I said E and I typed in 3, E4. Sorry about that. Let's close this one up and let's create our next variable, which is going to be a pink color. And then I'm going to assign this a hexadecimal color of B81. Let's see, B81EDB. Let's close this one up. And for the text color, let's give this the name of text and assign it to FB. Okay, so basically we're going to have these 3 variables. And you know what? Let me actually open this up. So this is our finished project. I can close up now fonts and let's go back our HTML file. Let me just create an H1. I'm going to delete this later on. H1 with title. Okay, so we just see what is going on here. Let's open up using live server. And there we go. We have our title. We have 0 margins and paddings, as you can see, because we set everything up here. We have the font family of Poppins. If I would comment this one out, then it's going to change the font family back to the original font family, which is Times, I believe. Okay, so we have this set up. Now, all I want to do in order to finish our basic setup is give the body the background color. So if you take a look in our finished project, we're going to have this color gradient, and we're going to achieve this by using the background property. And now we can use the linear gradient. Okay, and we're going to rotate this by 90 degrees. Then I'm going to use the first color, which is going to be the blue color. Now, because this is a variable, we need to have the var keyword within here. Close up the parentheses, and then just select the variable that we wish to use. So var blue, and then the second color is going to be var, and open close parentheses, and pink. Okay, and if I do this, then I'm going to have basically a linear gradient. Now, I did use variables here because if you change these two, then you will have a different color for your linear gradients. So if you wish to change them, they just need to change the 2 variables and play around with them if you wished. Now, also for the color, so for the entire text color of color of a web page, I'm going to use now the text variable, so text var and text variable, and I'm also going to give each text a text shadow, so it's going to pop out just a little bit. So text decoration, sorry about that, text shadow. I'm going to go with 1 pixel, 1 pixel, 1 pixel, and a hash of 333. This is going to give us a text shadow. Now you can see how the text pops out a little bit. Okay, and we're almost done. I just want to also add here overflow for the word wrapping. So overflow and wrap. I'm going to set this to break word, and that's basically it for our setup. Actually, not quite. One more last thing. I want to set our anchor tags and LIs because we're going to use a couple of LIs within here to have a text decoration of none. This just means that each time I'm having a anchor tag, it's not going to have that bluish color, and also it's not going to have that underline. And also for the LIs, I'm going to take out the list style. I'm going to set to none. So I don't want to have any kind of disks in there. And that's basically it for our basic setup. So let's head back to our HTML file. And from here, we're going to start up with our container. And I'm going to jump from HTML to CSS. I'm going to create something and then also style it. So it's time to create our basic container, which is going to be a general div with the class of container. Now within this container, we're going to have a navigation. So I'm just going to type in here a navigation as a comment. And after that, we're going to have a header. So type in another comment, header. Okay, now everything went white. This is because we need to style our container, because our container overlaps everything. So let's head into CSS and let's start styling our container. I'm actually going to type in here comment container. So we just know it's good to have your text commented out. So let's select our container class. And if you take a look in our finished project, and I'm actually going to make this a bit larger, you'll see that the container doesn't have, actually this is the container. Okay, so, and the container does not have the entire width of the entire page because it has a maximal width. So let's do this by telling it that it should have a max width of 1440 pixels. Then I'm going to set it to a height of 80 viewport heights. In order to see something, I'm just going to quickly add its background. You know what we're styling here. And for the background, I'm going to use a RGBA because I want to add, it's going to be for the red 255th, for the green 255, and for the blue 255. And I'm going to add a alpha of 0.15. And this is going to just give me this glossy looking background. Okay, you can see the container ends down here because it has only 80 viewport height. Now I want the container to be pushed down, so I'm going to tell that it's going to have a margin from the top of 10 viewport heights because we have 80 viewport heights, and from 100 we are left with 20. And if we want this to be in the middle of the page, then we need 10 from the top. Okay, this is going to push it down. In order to have it centered, I'm going to use margins, then auto. But I actually should have margins auto before margin tops, because you know CSS is cascading style sheet, stands for cascading style sheet, and this is read from top to bottom. So actually, after I'm telling it that it should have a margin top bottom, because this is setting margin to everything all around it, so top, bottom, left, and right. And after that, I'm overriding the top one with 10 viewport heights. Okay, but if I do this the other way around, then well, it's overwritten again. Now we're not quite done yet. I also want this to have a border radius of 10 pixels. Okay, you can see here it has a bit of a border radius. Then I'm going to give it a box shadow. So let's type in box shadow, 10 pixels, 10 pixels, 25 pixels for spread, not XP. Sorry about that. And 2 pixels for the blur. And then the color will be a hash of 111, which is actually a dark color. And you can see down here is the shadow, and also it's centered and it has a shadow all around it. Okay, so we're done with this part. And the last thing that I want to add is, if you take a look at our home page and hit refresh, you can see it has a bit of a fade in. Now this is an effect using a keyframe. So let's add this by creating here a keyframe, add keyframe. Let's call this fade in. And I'm just going to go from 0% to 100%. And at 0% is pretty easy. We're going to just have a box shadow of none, then a background of, well, exactly the same background as we had up here. I'm just going to copy this box shadow, actually this background, sorry about that, this background color, going to copy it in here, but replace this with just 0.5. And I'm going to also change the color to, again, the same RGB. I'm just going to copy this, paste it in here, and also leave it at 0.5. Now, the 100% I'm not going to change because it's going to go from this to its initial state, which is this one. So let's just add our animation, go down here, let's type in animation, then the animation name, which we set to fade and in. And it's going to take, let's say, 4 seconds and ease. Let's use an ease out. I like ease out. Okay, say. Okay, and if I, let me make this actually a bit larger. If I refresh this, you can see how it's coming in. Okay, and that's basically it for our container. So now we can move on and let's take care of our navigation next up. So let's go into our HTML file, and underneath the navigation comment, we're going to create our navigation tag by typing in nav with the class of nav, or you can just type in navigation. I like to use nav. And within here, we're going to create an anchor tag, which is basically going to be this logo, your company logo, whatever. This is media for me, and this would lead you, if you click on it, actually in a new file, in a new tab, it's going to lead you to my web page. Okay, so let's go back. I'm going to copy and paste this in. And also for the target, I'm going to use blank. So basically when someone clicks on it, it's not going to open in the same page, but it's going to open another page. So target, and we're going to set this to underscore blank. Okay, so if I would now go to our page and also type something in our anchor tag, basically company name, Manhart Media, and there it is, and click on it, then it's going to, well, open up my website. I also forgot to add to the anchor tags the color. So anchor tags and allies, color of var and text color. Okay, there we go. So let's continue with our navigation. After we have our logo up here, let's move underneath this anchor tag and let's create an unordered list, which is going to contain each and every navigation item. And I'm going to give this a class of nav-links, nav-links. And within here, we're going to create 4 navigation items by using li, and each li should include a anchor tag. And then I'm going to multiply this. So put this in a parenthesis. I'm going to multiply this by 4, and basically it's going to give me 4 anchor tags. Now for the href, I'm just going to use hash because it's just going to refresh the page. It's not going to actually lead us somewhere. And the first one is going to be home, then services, then about, and the last one is going to be contact. Basically, someone wants to contact you. Now, right after navigation links, I'm also going to use 2 button tags, so button, and within here I'm going to create the sign in button, the sign up button, and the login button. So sign, I'm going to copy this and tell it to, let's change this to login. Okay, so there's our 2 buttons. Now let's move outside our navigation, not outside the navigation, but outside the UL, so the nav links, and let's create these 2 buttons right here, which are actually 2 icons. So the hamburger and the times icon. And as I said, for this, we need Font Awesome. So let's go to Font Awesome, which is just fontawesome.com. All of the links are down in the description below. So don't worry about it if you can't see or can't understand something that I'm saying, because English is not my native language, as you already may have noticed. So let's move in here and let's just start, make this larger. Let's search for hamburger and basically use this, right click, open a new tag. And let's also search for times. And I use this one, open a new tab. Now basically you just have to click on it and this is copied. Go after UL, basically here, paste it in, then grab onto the next one, which is this one, times, and paste this one also in here. Okay, and we should have now, let's actually make this a bit smaller again, and we can close up Font Awesome if you have everything there. Okay, we see now our hamburger icon and our times icon. So we're done with our HTML for the navigation. Now let's move into CSS and start styling it. Now first things first, I'm going to take care of the buttons. So let me go in here and say buttons. I'm just going to create a btn class, and I'm going to increase the font weight of the buttons to 600, actually 700. I like 700 more. And let me also add this class to the buttons. So let's go back into our HTML and each button, and basically going to select both of them. Let's going to have a class of btn. Since I do this, you can see the font weight already increased. Now for the color, I'm going to use var and blue. This is the text color of the buttons, going to have a blue color. For the font family, going to say inherit, and this is basically going to inherit the body's font family. Then the background color will be var and text. The border, now let's give it a border color. I'm going to set this to var and pink. Now the type of display of each button is going to be set to inline block. I'm going to change the line height from regular to line, here's the height, line and height, there we go, to 1.5. I'm going to set the text decoration to none. If we hover over them, I'm going to have a cursor of type of pointer. Now I'm going to give it a border of 1 pixel, solid and transparent. Then a padding of top and bottom 0.375 and left and right 0.75. And this is rem, of course, and rem. Okay, let me scroll up a bit. Okay, let's also give it a border radius of 0.25 rem. So I'm not going to use pixel. I'm basically always going to watch what kind of font I have in here, or font size I have in here, and then change it to that font size 25 rem. Now, if I would give these buttons a effect, then the effect should have a transition of 0.3 seconds and ease. And of course, in order for the borders to, in order for the buttons to pop out a bit, I'm going to use a box shadow of 2 pixels, 2 pixels, 7 pixels, and 1 pixel, and a hash of, let's say, a evil 666. Okay, actually I don't like that. Let's go a bit lower. Let's go 333, only half evil. Yeah, that's much better. Okay, so we have our buttons done. I also like to have a bit of a hover effect, so let's select the class of btn again, and if we hover over a button, then we're going to have a background, if I can type background correctly, a background of RGBA, and I'm going to select this one. And now for the effect, it's going to take only, so we're going to use the same transition effect as we used up here. I can just actually copy this. So 0.3 seconds and ease. Basically, if I hover over it, it's going to have a, well, it's going to have a bit of a transparent effect. Okay, so we're done with our buttons. Now let's move along and continue with our navigation styling. So let's select the nav class, and let's first of all increase the font size in the navigation to 1.4 rem. Then I'm going to give it a padding from the top of 4 rem. So I'm going to be pushed down a bit from the top, and I'm going to also push it from the left by giving it a padding left of 6 rem. And because I'm actually styling, let me make this just a bit smaller so you can better see this. Now I want this to be displayed as flex, and flex automatically flexes in a row. So if I type in display and flex, then we're going to have our 2 items, which are actually the anchor tag and then the UL, which is on the list, flexed in a row. And later on, I'm going to take care also of, well, of our navigation items. And now let's set to the alignment of the items to center. Okay, that's basically done for this part. Now let's select the nav links. Let me scroll up a bit, and let's start styling them. So we're going to position them first of all relative, because I want to push them away a bit. So I could do something like right, this should start from the right with minus 400 pixels. Okay, so basically they pushed to the right side. They start from the right side with minus 400 pixels. Now I also want them to be displayed as flexed, and I'm also going to use here align items to the center. Okay, this is done for this part. Now let me target the nav links, and within them the LIs, so the list items. I'm going to set the margin from the left to have 2 rem. Now don't worry that everything is moved out of, well, they're actually pushed out of there, because as soon as we're going to hit this dimension, we are going to hide the navigation. We're going to make it into a hamburger menu. So don't worry about this for the moment. Okay, let's move on. I'm actually going to copy this part, and within here, if we hover over a anchor tag, let's use the hover property, then I'm going to change the opacity to, let's just say 0.5. This is a pretty neat trick. If basically you hover over a navigation item, then you're going to have this nice effect. Okay, now for the buttons, you can actually see the buttons right now, but I'm going to add a margin, so the class, but only within the navigation. So nav, let's just state that only within the navigation links, the class of btn should have a margin left of 2 rem. And actually, if I go in here and just show what just happened, they're kind of pushed together without margins. And if I add now a margin of 2 rem, so let's comment this back out again, then they're going to have a bit of a distance between them. Okay, we're still seeing our hamburger menu, our hamburger icon, and our times icon. So I want to hide both of them. So what I'm going to do is target the FA bars, comma, FA times class, and class FA dash times. And I'm going to set both of them to have a cursor pointer. So if I go over them, I'm going to have a cursor pointer. Now they're actually behind the navigation. I'm going to hide the navigation shortly, but I'm also going to display them as none. Okay, so basically they're hidden. They should only appear when I'm reaching a certain window width. Now it's actually time to hide our navigation. So let's go down here and let's grab onto the media query. Let's say that scene and at the max width of 1440 pixels, our nav and nav links, actually just nav links, this is enough. Our nav links class should be displayed as none. And I think I forgot to add, just check. Okay, there we go. But we want our hamburger menu to appear here, so let's also go ahead and say that the class of FA bars should be displayed, display flex. We're going to push it to the end, so justify, why isn't this showing? Let me also take the position to relative. Oh, there we go. And let me push it to the end, so justify content. I'm going to push it to the end of the flex, so flex and end, because it's not taking up the entire width. So let me also add the width of 100% of its container. Now it should be pushed to the end of this container, but it's to the complete end of its container. So I want to move it back a bit, and for this I'm going to add a margin to the right side of it of 4 rem. It's basically going to push it a bit back. Okay, so there's our hamburger menu, at least the hamburger icon. Now we're kind of done for now with our navigation. We're going to come back to this when we're going to also add functionality. But for now, let's move on to our header, basically to this hero section right here. And for this, we're going to go back to our HTML. And when we head, I can actually make this a bit smaller again. So let's go back in here to our HTML file, and right here underneath our header, let's create a header tag. Header, a header tag is going to be a pretty simple header. Just going to have an h2 within here with hi and a comma, and then another h2 with I am Norbert. You can type in your own name, of course, and then an h4 with welcome to my web page, and then just a paragraph tag with a lorem ipsum in it. Okay, so that's basically it. Underneath of it, I will also add a button. So let's go ahead, create a button tag again with the class of btn, and within it I'm going to type in read more and ... 3 ellipses. Why aren't you done? Okay, and there's also our button. Okay, now let's style this a bit. Let's go into our CSS and write, where should I style it? Well, before our media query, that is sure, because it's going to be responsive and it's going to be header. Okay, and basically I'm doing this because if I want to change something in a header, and also I am going to change something when it's hitting this right here, then if I do the styling after our media query, then it's going to overwrite itself. So we need to have it up here. Okay, for our header, so for our header tag, first of all, we'll position this relative. Now I'm going to push it from the left side. It's 6 rem, so I'm going to add a margin to the left of 6 rem, exactly as we have our navigations is perfectly aligned. And I'm going to push it down a bit, so margin top of 4 rem. Okay, and let's also set its max width to 700 pixels. So basically it's not going to be larger than right here. Okay, next up, let's take care of our headings. So we have an h2. So we have multiple h2s, but we're going to increase their font size to 4 rem. Then the h4, we're going to set this to font weight of 100, and font size, well, font size is going to only go with 2.5 rem. Okay, and the last thing that we need is our padding down here. Our padding, not our padding, our paragraph tags. So let's go paragraph tag, and let's give it a margin. Let's give it a margin top and bottom of 4 rem and left and right of 0. Okay, it's going to basically create a bit of space and actually divide everything up equally. Okay, now for the responsive part, because I am here, but if I make this small, I also want to decrease their sizes. So let's go down here in our media query, and let's say h2 should have a font size of just 3 rem. Actually, let's go with 2.5. Then the h4 has decreased this to just 2 rem. So font size 2 rem, and the paragraph tag should decrease its margin from top and bottom of 2 rem, and everything is going to be at 0. Okay, so you can see we're having a bit of a smaller tab here. Okay, so that's basically it for our header. So next up, let's make our navigation here appear again. And for this, first of all, we're going to create a JavaScript file. So let's go back, create a nav.js file. Let's also include it in our HTML. So above our body tag, we're going to type in script, source, and nav.js. And there we go. Let's just check if we include it. Let's console log the text of nav, the string. Let's open up the console, right click, inspect, and we have our nav done here. Perfect. Okay, I'm going to leave this a bit open, the console, I mean. Let's also clear this up. So I'm going to need to take care of, I'm going to need three things. I'm going to need this button, it's not a button, but the icon. I'm going to need the X icon, and I'm going to need the navigation. So the navigation is pretty easy. Let's create a const. Let's call this nav links. And I'm going to go to the document, .query selector, and I'm going to select the class of nav links. Okay, so after we have done this, we now need to select these two, FA bars and FA times. I can give them IDs. Actually, let me give them IDs. It's much easier. ID of, let's say this is going to be menu dash btn. This is going to be the open button. Okay, so we open, and type in open correctly, open. Basically, this is going to be the one that is going to open the navigation, and the times icon is going to be the one that is going to close the navigation. So let's call this one menu btn and close. Okay, now I'm going to grab onto both this. Let me close up the left part. So let's create another const. Let's call this menu btn and open. Go to the document, query selector, or you could use get element by ID as you wish. And we're going to grab onto the ID of menu dash btn and dash underscore open. I'm just going to basically copy this and replace this with close. Okay, and I should have everything, so I'm going to comment this, console log out, and let's console log here, console log. I'm going to console log the nav link, nav links, then the menu button, and the menu close button. So if I hit save, I should see all of them. So there's the nav links, there's one icon. Where's the other one? Oh, there's the other one. Okay, so we got all three of them. Perfect. Let me comment this part out. So we wish to open our navigation. We wish to make it appear again. Now, for this, we first need to style it in, or this is just one way of doing this. I'm going to add a class to our nav. So let's go back into CSS and let's see where we had our nav links. We have them up here, and we told them down here that they should disappear, display none. Okay, now right after this, I'm going to grab onto the nav links again, move this down, and if they have also a class of active, then they should have a different behavior. Then they should be positioned absolute. They should be from the left position 0 and from the top position 0. They should be displayed as flex. The flex direction should be in a column, not in a row. We're going to justify the content then with space around. The navigation now is going to take up the entire width of the page, so 100%, not dollars, that's too cheap. And the entire height should be also 100%. Okay, now let's also add a background, and I'm going to add a RGBA background of 3 and 0.7 for the alpha. Oops, I forgot the red. And this is going to be basically a transparent but dark color. Now I want to give the navigation a bit of a padding, so I'm going to go with a padding of 15 viewport heights top and bottom and 0 left and right. And also I'm going to increase the font size to 2 rem. Okay, and in order for navigation to be above what we have here, so this cannot be selected anymore, I'm going to give it a Z index of 2. Basically, it's going to put it over it. Okay, so let's try this out. If I would now select the menu button open, and I'm going to add a click event to it, so I'm just going to say on click. Okay, and I'm going to assign this to a arrow function. And when this happens, then the nav links dot class list is going to toggle the class of active, because right now it does not have the class of active. And we know if it has the class of active, then this type of styling will come into play. So let's try this out. Let's click on the hamburger menu, and there we go. There's our menu again. Okay, but we cannot make this disappear. And we can also see here the hamburger button and we don't need this. We need our times button, our X, our close button. So for this, first of all, we're going to go back into CSS and we're going to hide the hamburger button. So right after this, after our navigation active, let's say that the FA, the class of FA bars should be displayed as none, but only if it has, let's say, a class of close. Okay, and we're going to display this as none. Basically, we can hide it. Now, how can we add this class to it? Well, in the same functionality that we're activating our navigation, we also can grab onto the menu button open again, dot class list, dot toggle the class of close. Okay, so basically if I click on the hamburger menu again, then it disappears and the navigation appears. Now, this is pretty cool, but we don't have our X here. So let's go again back into CSS. And exactly as we did for FA bars, we can now target the FA times. And let's say we're going to give this a open class. And when this FA times has the class of open, then we just need to position it exactly as we positioned. Where do I position it? Here. Here's the FA bars. We're going to copy this, go up where we have our FA times, paste this in here. And the only thing we also need to add to this is a Z index of, exactly as the navigation has, of 2. So they're going to be in the same plane of view. Okay. In order to activate it, we just need to go into our functionality again, copy the menu open, change this to close, because we want to target now the close button. And we're going to change or add toggle the class of open to it. I cannot type open. This is amazing. So let's click on the hamburger menu. It's going to display the menu, hide the hamburger, and display our X button here. Perfect. So how can we now close our menu? Well, it's exactly as we did here. We will now copy this, paste it down here, but we're going to change our button from open to close, because we're now targeting this X button, and voila, it's exactly as we did up here. We're doing the same thing down here. Now, if you want to have this simplified, then you could do a function called toggler. And this function would basically just do this. Paste this in here, delete this, and we don't even need curly brackets, and we don't need here curly brackets. We just need this function to be once here and once here. Save this, and this should work again. Okay. When we click on the hamburger button, then the function is the toggler function is toggled, is activated, is going to perform first of all this. Then when we click the other button, it's going to perform exactly the same thing again. Okay. Hope this makes sense. And I think we're done. We're done with this part. And all we need to do is make our site live and edit and host it. And for this, well, you need a GitHub account. Now, if you don't have a GitHub account, you want to create one. Actually, I don't have a video on this. But I do have a course on this, so check it out. It's pretty simple. You just go to GitHub and create an account. That's not a big of a deal. So let's go to GitHub. It's basically my account. Let's create here a new repository. Now, when you're creating a website, and I also have this in my course, you need to add the .github.io extension to it. So let's say my website.github.io. Okay. Now you need to have it as public, and let's also create a README file here of my landing page. Okay, let's create this repository. Actually, I should make this a bit larger. Sorry about that. So for the repository name, whatever name you wish to have the repository, but it must include this .github.io, and it must be public, okay? And you can add a short README file to it. Now create a repository. Next up, you need to add the files that you created, so the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript file. So you can go to add files, upload files, and you can basically just drag and drop them in here. That's also what I'm going to do. So it's pretty easy if you just open up your files in your Visual Studio Code by right-click, Reveal in Finder, or if you're on a Windows machine that is Reveal in Explorer. And here are our files. I'm just going to grab them, drop them in here, and say add files. Okay, now click on Commit Changes. I'm going to upload it. You have to wait a couple of seconds. Okay, our files are now uploaded. Now you go to settings, down to pages, and from pages you will need to click here where it says source, and you select main. Click on save, and then this root will appear. Now this, depending on your internet speed and on the complexity of what you're uploading, is going to take a couple of minutes until it's live. Seconds, minutes, it depends. So if I right click open on this, then right now it's not found. But if you wait, just wait a bit. I'm going to, using the magic of editing, be much quicker. And there we go. There's our website. You can see right here, it's norbertpm github.io, my website github.io. So it's basically not on your local IP, but it's on GitHub. Whee! And you have your site live, and also it should work. You can see the navigation is still working. I'm going to close everything up that we have here. Actually, I'm going to leave the link to the site, have it linked up. You know what? Change this, or do your own thing and leave the link to your site in the comment sections below so I can check it out if you wish, and I can comment on it. Haha. Okay, everyone, so hope you enjoyed this project. If you did, leave me a like. Please help me grow this channel. Also, if you have any kind of questions or suggestions, please leave them in the comment section below. And if you're not subscribed, then please consider doing so, because I'm posting new content like this on almost 2 times a week now. But if you wish to see that content, you must click on the notification bell and click notify all, because if you don't do that, then the chances are pretty high that you miss when I'm posting new videos. Okay, so with this being said, have a lovely day, night, evening, top of the morning, wherever and whenever you're watching this video. So take care and catch you on the flip side. Bye bye.